Hi, I'm Melinda and I'm sitting here on my veranda in sunny Queensland, Australia, and I would like to just share with you a bit about why I sit on this veranda each morning at about 5 o'clock and why that is so rich an experience for me. The first reason is because my children are tucked safely up in their beds and are unable to interrupt me. It's very, very important. But why is it that I like to come out here? I'd like to share with you a bit about that. I grew up in a Salvation Army family, and so the values of asceticism, of self-denial, and of commitment and faithfulness were very, very high and were instilled in me. So much so that if I, got bitten by a dog while collecting for the Red Shield Appeal to raise money for the homeless, for alcoholics, for those who suffer from drug abuse, well, what was that? It was all in the name of sacrifice. What is a dog bite? We didn't have very much money at all compared to a lot of other Western families. Compared to a lot of my friends, I felt quite poor. But my family insisted that what was on the inside was far more important than what you actually owned, what you possessed. So inner values were instilled in me also. Being from the Salvation Army, there's a long history, a very rich history of the sharing style where you go out and you preach the good news, you share the good news with people. So that also was part of my culture. The value of scripture also was very high, so much so that I would feel guilty as a young teenager having, the real Bible up here in my bed reading, while inside the Bible was a comic strip Bible, a Bible for kids, one that I really, really like to read. But I felt so guilty because it wasn't the real thing. The value of scripture was very high as well. But my family grew restless. They had experienced this rich history from the Salvation Army also, but my mother in particular was very, very hungry for something new, for something that would make her feel alive. She went to a Pentecostal conference and she came back speaking in tongues. She wanted to go and pray for everybody's healing, that they would become well. She even put on a healing weekend at our local church so that people could come and experience the healing of God. All of a sudden there was this newfound enthusiasm for the power of God and what He could do. As I watched my mother enter into this new phase and I heard about her experiences of God speaking directly to her heart, to her mind, I became very hungry also. I wanted something new. I wanted something different, something tangible, something that made me feel more alive. So my journey of hungering after the enthusiastic style, of hungering after the mystical style became apparent then. The people from my past and experiences from my past shaped my decision to become a Salvation Army officer. I wanted to take on a life of asceticism and going and get the world saved. Well, that led me to meeting my husband. The very first place that I was sent to as a young officer, I met my husband, and I came across his family who were very, very different from mine. They were a thinking family, we were a praying family. And so I took on the attributes from his family, that God was a God who made sense, a God of reason, of wisdom and logic. And my eyes were open to an aspect of God that I had never experienced before, and it was something that has added to the richness of my relationship with God now. The other thing about my husband is he awakened in me a desire to experience God and life with my senses. I mean, what was a girl to do? He takes me to a gorgeous rainforest. We go bushwalking. There's a beautiful waterfall. He makes chicken salad for me. He gives me a long-stemmed rose. What am I supposed to do? Go with it, of course. And that I did. And because I did, my whole senses became enlivened, and I discovered God in a whole new way. I can love Him not just with my will, I can love Him with my mind, and I can love Him with my body. Despite the fact that my husband awakened in me a desire to know about the God who made sense and the God who loves us and we can experience Him through our senses, I found it extremely hard to know what to do because I had committed myself to a life of singleness. So I was very, very perplexed and very confused as to what I should do. It was actually through a very mystical experience that I came to discover the truth of what I should do. I lay down on my bedroom room floor one night and I cried out to God saying, you know that I want to serve you alone. You know that I love you and I don't know what to do. What is the right thing, the best thing? What is the truth? And immediately into my head came a Bible reference. For me, this often happens where a Bible reference will come into my head like I'm looking at a computer screen. It's just written there. I won't know necessarily anything about the passage or about that specific verse, and if I look it up, I will be blown away at how much it speaks into my situation. That's exactly what happened. Romans 8:32 came into my head and I looked it up, and in that moment I knew that I did not have to make a choice between God and between my husband. In fact, he was a gift to me from God. Let me read to you what the verse says. He who did not withhold or spare even his own son, but gave him up for us all, will he not also with him freely and graciously give us all other things? God used a mystical experience where he planted something in my heart and in my mind to speak to me the truth. It is not a choice. Since that point in time, I've had many experiences like that bring such a richness to my relationship with God and in my relationship to other people. But what drives me the most is the doctrinal style, and that is the truth. If I can believe that something is true, that will open my mind up to all sorts of possibilities. If I believe that God made the earth and the heavens by wisdom and understanding, and if James is right where he says that God will give wisdom to all who ask him, then I simply must grow in my ability to relate to God with logic, with reason, to understand him in a rational kind of way. If it is true that Jesus said, greater things you will do than me, then it must be true that I am to embrace the enthusiastic style, the power of God. So having a firm foundation of the doctrinal style gives me great freedom to branch out and to take hold of all the other styles. If it is true that all of those styles are ways that we are to engage with God, that we are to grow in it, then I simply must grow in them, whether I like it or not, because the truth is the truth. Being strong in the doctrinal style means that I have a burden to know the truth, and that the truth will set me free and will set my family free, my neighborhood, my suburb, my country, my world will be set free by the truth. I think of that great verse in Isaiah 53 that says, when he sees all that has been accomplished by his anguish, he will be satisfied. And I want him to be able to look at me and my family and say, when I see all that has been accomplished by my anguish, I am satisfied. See you later.